At 6:12 in the morning, a white Freightliner semi sat steaming in my driveway like a stranded whale, its trailer stuffed with what the invoice called decorative gravel. I clicked the padlock on my steel ranch gate, looked the driver dead in the eyes, and said, "Good news. This is now a secure storage facility." Behind him, HOA President Tamson Kettle waved from the sidewalk like she had just delivered a fruit basket. "Consider this your compliance gravel," she chirped in that sing-song voice of hers. The driver tried to leave. The gate didn't budge. The horn blared. A flock of crows in my oak tree seemed to approve. I could see the exact moment the driver realized he was trapped, his eyes widening as he looked from the gate to Tamson and back to me. This was going to be a memorable Monday. My name is Marcus Bell. I'm a GIS analyst who enjoys espresso, silence, and the rectangle of weeds I call a native meadow behind my ranch-style place in Alder Trace. I read bylaws the way other people read mystery novels, and I've got a filing system that would make a law clerk weep with joy. Enter Tamson Kettle, our HOA's reigning clipboardsmith, who believes God invented cul-de-sacs specifically to showcase her authority. The woman carries a laminated copy of the covenants in her purse like normal people carry photos of their grandchildren. We had history. She had fined me for non-compliant fauna, which turned out to be bees. Honeybees. Pollinating my vegetables. She tried to cite me for improvised flags, which was actually a kite my nephew left in the yard. She even came after me for seditious mailbox font. It was Courier. Apparently, only Arial and Times New Roman are acceptable in her kingdom. I ignored her edicts, paid nothing, and planted milkweed in direct violation of her precious landscaping code. Each fine went into a folder I labeled Tamson's Greatest Hits. She declared war with a gravel truck. The scheme unfurled in emails that hit my inbox at 5:58 in the morning. The subject line read Community Beautification Initiative, which should have been my first warning. As part of neighborhood improvement, gravel shall be placed on non-conforming lots, she wrote, as if adding the word shall made it legally binding. My lot was example A, complete with a helpful aerial photo highlighting my native plants in accusatory red circles. Tamson had hired a cut-rate hauler to dump 20 tons of gravel across my driveway and side yard. No permit, no consent, just vibes and vindictiveness dressed up as community service. I caught the driver backing up my driveway at dawn, the beeping loud enough to wake everyone within 3 houses. He handed me a bill addressed simply to homeowner. I said, "I'm the homeowner. I didn't order this." He gave me that universal shrug of subcontracted doom, the kind that says he's been through this before. Lady said the HOA owns the easement. It doesn't. I've got the survey to prove it. I locked the gate behind his truck, stepped aside, and began taking photos of VIN numbers, license plates, and the USDOT number like a tourist at a truck museum. Every angle, every detail, timestamp enabled. Tamson pranced over with her 3-ring binder clutched to her chest like a shield. "We're improving your frontage, Marcus," she said with that fake cheerfulness she reserves for what she calls problem properties. Her smile looked like it had been ironed on. "I'm protecting my frontage," I replied, nodding toward the gate. The driver suddenly realized he was trapped between my fence and a hydrangea hedge. His face went pale. Tamson's voice went sharp, all pretense of sweetness evaporating. "You will open this gate immediately." I smiled, the kind of smile I reserve for people who think volume equals authority. "2 conditions. You remove the gravel, and you sign a release of liability." She laughed, a sharp bark that echoed down the street. "I don't negotiate with homeowners who violate community standards." Then the horn blared again. Neighbors emerged with coffee and popcorn. Mrs. Chen from number 42 brought out a folding chair. I dialed 3 numbers in quick succession. First, the non-emergency line for the sheriff. I reported attempted illegal dumping on private property. Second, the city's code enforcement office. Commercial dumping with no right-of-way permit. Third, the state DOT hotline. Commercial vehicle operating on a residential street, suspected overweight without a proper delivery manifest. Each call was calm, factual, and meticulously detailed. I gave them my address, the truck's information, and a brief summary that made it clear this wasn't a civil dispute, It was multiple code violations in progress. While we waited, I slid a printed sign through the fence slats. It read Notice of Secured Storage. Vehicle retained pending lawful resolution. Storage rates $300 per day. I am nothing if not prepared. I'd created the sign 3 months ago after Tamson threatened to have cars towed for my guest parking. Just in case. Tamson took a photo of the sign like she could find me for fonts again. The irony was delicious. That sign has no legal standing, she announced to the growing crowd of neighbors. I just smiled and checked my watch. 7 minutes until the first responder would arrive, if my calculations were correct. The sheriff's deputy arrived first, calm as a pond in July. He asked the driver for a bill of lading. The driver produced a post-it note with Marcus-Gravel written in Sharpie. Not exactly ironclad documentation. The deputy raised an eyebrow. That's your manifest? Code enforcement rolled up next, a woman named Patricia who I'd worked with on a drainage issue the previous year. She saw the trailer straddling my yard, blocking the sidewalk, and muttered, "Oh, that's just great." Then the DOT inspector arrived with a tape measure like a sword, and started talking about axle weights and residential street restrictions. The word citation was deployed, quickly followed by 2 more. Chain and custody. I watched Tamson's confident expression start to crumble like week-old cookies. Turns out, the driver couldn't leave because he had entered private property without permission, and any movement now counted as continuing an illegal act. The deputy separated us like boxers between rounds. Driver by the cab, me by the gate, Tamson in the shade trying to look like a community philanthropist who'd been terribly misunderstood. She kept saying things like neighborhood beautification and community improvement, as if repeating them would change the legal reality. The DOT inspector wrote the truck up for overweight on Residential Street and improper manifest. His citation book made satisfying ripping sounds with each violation. Code enforcement cited the HOA for unpermitted street obstruction and attempted illegal dumping. Patricia apologized to me personally, which was nice. The deputy turned to me. "Do you want it towed?" I shook my head slowly. I prefer it remain exactly where it is, until the gravel is removed and damages are properly addressed. Tamson tried one last power move, drawing herself up to her full 5'3". As HOA President, I order you to open that gate. The deputy didn't even blink. "Ma'am, this is private property. You're dangerously close to converting a civil dispute into criminal trespass." His hand rested on his radio meaningfully. Neighbors began clapping with the polite rhythm of people at a charity bake sale. Mr. Rodriguez started a slow clap that built into genuine applause. I filed a written notice to the HOA management company within the hour. Trespass, conversion, and interference with quiet enjoyment. I attached my schedule of storage fees like an appetizer menu, complete with daily and weekly rates. 48 hours later, the semi was still my uninvited yard sculpture. Every hour it sat there incurred storage charges per my posted rates. Perfectly legal when a vehicle parks itself on your land without permission and you provide proper notice. My attorney confirmed I was well within my rights. The trucking company called me 6 times the first day. Then their insurance company called. I forwarded both to my attorney, who speaks fluent policy exclusion clause, and sent them letters that made grown men cry. Emergency HOA meeting was called for 7 p.m. on day 2. Tamson tried to rally the board members to her side, standing at the podium like a general addressing troops. Unfortunately for her, the treasurer had seen the mounting fines. DOT penalties totaling $8,000, city citations for another $4,000, plus my storage bill now north of $14,400 and climbing like compound interest. The gravel had also washed into the storm drain during a light sprinkle, earning the HOA a fresh citation for illicit discharge of materials, another $3,000 fine. The treasurer's hands shook as he read the numbers aloud. Day 3, a tow company arrived with a rotator crane under sheriff's supervision. The crane operator took one look at the situation and whistled. "This is going to be expensive." But here's the beautiful twist. The tow yard required a release from me, the landowner, or a valid court order. No exceptions, no shortcuts. Insurance liability, the crane operator explained. I folded my arms and read from my new favorite script. Before this vehicle leaves my property, the HOA signs 3 documents. 1. A confession of judgment for my storage fees. 2. A remediation agreement to remove all gravel and professionally clean the storm drain. 3. A written apology acknowledging zero authority to dump material